Hey, this is Barbie with Bell's Palsy Talk. I'm very excited to be talking to Dr. Faye Walk tonight. Hi. How are you doing
Hello.
today?
Good. How are you?
I
I'm
am
so
great.
happy to be here.
Yes, we're so excited to have you on today um, and learn about all the things that you've been up to, especially writing your book that's in production now, and about your journey with Bell's Palsy as well. First morning when you woke up with day one, we all know it all too well.
Yeah. So, like many people, I had the pain behind the ear and didn't know what was going on. And so I took a bunch of cold medication thinking I was getting an ear infection or a
Sure.
cold.
Yeah.
And, then of course, so when I woke up that morning and I felt weird, I went and I read the side effects on the cold medication, and it mentioned numbness was one of the side effects. So I thought, oh, I'm having a weird side effect to this medication. And I went for a jog, and I called one of my friends and I said, something weird is going on with my face. And she actually said, oh God, I hope it's not Bell's palsy. And I was like, wait, what's that? And she's like, oh,
That's weird. Yeah.
yeah. No, she's like, no, it's not that. Don't worry about it. But then as it continued to get worse, I got a look at myself in the mirror, and I thought, oh my God, am I having a stroke? As I'm sure many people think. And so I ran to my bookcase and I pulled like some of the most difficult books I could find off my bookcase and started reading them. And I was like, okay, I still understand these books. I'm not having a stroke.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I pulled Foucault and advanced statistics. So I was like, okay, if I can read these.
Yeah.
And so one of my childhood best friends is a doctor. So I texted her a photo, and she said, you have Bell's palsy, go to the ER right now.
Now, yeah.
Yeah. And it was flu season, and I showed up, and, there was standing room only. And, before, this was many years ago, before COVID, but it was just packed in there. People were throwing up in the bathroom, and they took me in right away. And I went, oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
boy.
not a good thing. That's not a VIP treatment at a restaurant, right?
Right.
That's bad news. Yeah.
Yeah, but then unfortunately, once they decided it's Bell's palsy, and I do think that medical facilities have gotten a little bit better about this over time, they just kind of go, oh yeah, like here's your steroids, here's your, antivirals, bye.
Yeah. See you
You'll be
later. Good luck.
fine.
Yeah.
And they just sort of act like you're going to be fine. And, 15 to 20% of people aren't, is what the numbers look like now. I mean, we're overall fine. But we do have residual effects, and like that's a sizable proportion of people. Yes. And we don't really know, if there hasn't been enough studies to know what things could or couldn't be done, or should or shouldn't be done, to really prevent synkinesis, which is one of the most common side effects. But I also did talk to some people who simply never healed, and there should have been some signs that there were probably some pretty clear signs of that early on, and as opposed to people who, heal within that 2-week period and happily go about their way.
Yeah. Yeah. The people that you just resolve on their own, I guess there's not as much damage. And the people that don't kind of heal all the way, like you and I, it's kind of, should you have had more medication? Should you have this? Should you have that? Which is what you're saying, to create more awareness about that. Mm-hmm. So obviously that's some of the motivation that you had to write your book, and to talk to so many people about it.
Well, and it's sort of one of those things where I was already a professor of sociology, and my specialty was already the body and embodiment and identity. So as a couple of my academic friends said, is like they said it sort of took you a long time to get around to writing it because it was a difficult thing to live with. But yeah, eventually it sort of seemed like it was a really important thing to do, because the treatment and the care for people with synkinesis in particular, but other residual effects too, is so problematic, and there's still such bad or unclear information, right? So there isn't a real clear protocol of care. We're not sure what makes it better or worse, and maybe we should figure those things out before we start giving people advice on what they should or shouldn't be doing. And even though it's not a huge number of people, when you look at it around the world, it is quite a few people, and you could be doing better studies. So one thing that's been exciting in getting involved with this work is I've had the opportunity to work on some projects like creating a standardized outcome set that can be used for children. And I worked on a project that they're trying to publish now that looked at sort of long-term impacts. And so that's been sort of nice to see that people are sort of stepping out and sort of, it's little research, right? That gets you all these things, and doing those those
but it
little
adds
projects.
up to big. Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
that fill in all those holes. And it's kind of been exciting to see more and more people sort of being able to do that, and to see just the amount of information there is from when I first got Bell's palsy and was looking for information to what there is today. There's like such a huge difference in the availability of information. Still, it's not great, but it's much better than it was when I started.
Getting there. And I think conversations like this just kind of help people even think, oh yeah, hey, that's something to look into. For me, you know, so it's been 7 years now for me. And of course, I just Googled it. I never even thought of social media or Facebook or anything like that. You know, of course, for me, I tell people to be very cautious about the groups on Facebook. They're great for support, like emotional support, but you know, definitely want to go make sure you're seeing a doctor for anything that you do try. So I do want to make sure we say that throughout this talk. But for me, I think that, yeah, the social media thing and just getting people to be even more aware. So like you're saying, a doctor can be like, okay, I have this protocol and this is what I do, check, check, check. And I actually was on a call earlier today with a lady, her name's Cheryl, and myself are going to be organizing a Bell's Palsy Summit, which we'll definitely be chatting with you about, and to be getting people together, educators together for exactly that, because it is the first 72 hours that are the most important thing. And so you know, do have a limited amount of time. So I am really excited about people coming together more and having information. Now in your book, you're going to be talking about things about the esteem effects of facial paralysis, and the mental health part was the part that I was really interested to chat with you about, because that's what I'm really passionate about, is you know, the grief part and the learning to essentially have a new face that you present to the world. So can you chat with us a little bit about that?
I think definitely when I started doing the project, I did what's called semi-structured interviews. So I had some questions I asked everybody, but then I sort of let people take me where they wanted to go. And while initially I thought it was going to be this, you know, passionate discussions of medical care, it was actually the mental health and just sort of the reforming of identity, particularly, as I'm sure anyone who's on here that also has a facial difference of any kind will know, it's acquired. The smile, and very specifically the loss of the smile, was so central to people. But what was fascinating about talking to them, and this was true for a lot of things, is people assumed, other people who don't have facial difference assume it's about the way you look. Oh, you look fine. But people you don't have a mirror in front of you, right? When you're out and about. It's the experience of smiling that had changed. Right. And so that sort of unfettered joy that people generally have, what happens, right, as you know, I see you have synkinesis too, right, is when you start to smile, it pulls, it feels uncomfortable, it feels weird, it feels wrong. Well, that has disrupted that unfettered, spontaneous moment of joy. And it's actually that disruption and that inability to have that experience anymore that was far more profound and deeply grieved by everybody in the sample, myself included, where you just want to smile without being reminded that you have this acquired disability. Yeah,
without being cautious. That's what it, you know, is for me. And I've, you know, really embraced doing Instagram lives. I love doing them. For me, it's very helpful to be doing it live and have an audience and stuff for my confidence. But it is very hard because I'm literally staring at my face, and that part's very tricky, because you're right, it's not easy. I've had to relearn how I smile. You know, I smile with my mouth closed now, and I never smiled like that, right? You have to think about it. And that joy shouldn't be something that you have to think about. Just the way you say that really resonates with me.
Yeah, and it was so profound for so many, and just that overall expression of so many people too. Like, that moment of meeting people and wanting to put your best foot forward,
Yeah.
and always having synkinesis kind of step in there and disrupt that for people was really, really difficult. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think, you know, another thing that just came up so much was where people like solved it with their pets in a lot of ways is pets became both like the supportive, like, well, my dog doesn't care how I smile,
Yeah.
but also the icebreaker that allowed people to maybe break the ice when they knew they couldn't smile. They're like, oh, I have a cute little Yorkie. And then that allows people to come over and sort of say hi in a way that
Yeah.
they wouldn't. So that was sort of a fun little thing that came out, was the way people integrated their pets into it. But there was always a process. You know, people were in different places. It always took time to adjust, and people's personalities really came through and how they figured out how to adjust. There was, of course, that segment of people that, you know, my heart just broke for, where they didn't have the support network, and they didn't have the resources, and they didn't have access to good mental health care, and they were struggling. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who, you know, I couldn't talk to because they weren't ever going to support groups or going to the places where I could recruit people that I know are, you know, very much self-isolating and really unhappy. And that's really a heartbreaking thing, because it's, you know, I think one woman, she put it so beautifully, as she said, she was a breast cancer survivor. And she said, you know, when I lost my breast, people, you know, it was all, you know, oh, we're going to help you. We're going to rebuild your self-esteem. We're going to rebuild your breast. And people were there for me. And there were all these groups. And she's like, and then I lost my face. And they were like, oh, it's just aesthetics. You don't need to worry about that. And she's
Really?
like, what? It's my face. Like, and, you know, and finding, you know, and eventually finding the support group where I met her, you know, sort of saying is like, she's like, this was so much more profoundly disturbing to my sense of self. And there weren't any resources, and there wasn't support, and there wasn't medical care. Just a little tip for anyone who has facial difference and isn't getting medical care. I got a lot of wrong medical care with synkinesis until I started using the term movement disorder.
Oh.
Because synkinesis is technically a movement disorder. So when I was saying Bell's palsy, they kept sending me to neurology, which is sort of right. But they sent me to a lot of neurologists who kept looking for ongoing Bell's palsy. That's not the problem with synkinesis. It's a movement disorder.
Right.
And so I only started getting the right care when I figured out I needed to say movement disorder. Right. So yeah, that there's a lot of sort of weird stuff like that happen, where people get sent just sort not, it's not that people are cruel or they don't want to.
Yeah, no, they just don't know. The doctors are humans, really, and they just do their best. Yeah, for sure. But that's a great tip to have, is to, you know, give that a try with the professional, because that's exactly why we have these talks, because it's this little thing where it's like, oh, this worked for me. Like, hey, how about you give that a shot? Like, that's what, you know, that's what I love, because the synkinesis part is, you know, the part I do sessions with Jody from the Center for Facial Recovery, helping me with stretches and stuff. And I need to be more consistent. I mean, that's my downfall. But yeah, just that retraining, and her saying, like, this is a lifelong thing. It's not the stretching and the exercises make your, you know, help retrain your facial reanimation or training or whatever they call it. But it's a lifelong thing that we have to, you know, accept and deal with, and you know, keep that as a reminder of making sure we take care of ourselves. I'm sure you're the same. You know, when I'm tired or stressed or cold, your like face, first place you feel it. And, you know, that's a message that something's going on deeper, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I get my Botox, my routine Botox is tomorrow. And earlier this week, I was like, oh, there goes the eye. It feels weird. Right. It's like I know the pain that the Botox produces for me.
Yeah, and I'm actually going back on Wednesday to do Botox. I did it a few years ago around my eye. It really helped with the synkinesis in my eye, because my eye gets really tired. But then I stopped doing it because I was doing the physical therapy, which you need to be able to move, you know. So I'm going to go back, on Wednesday. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm going to do some videos on it on here. There's a lot of followers that are interested in the Botox. So Botox, obviously, you say works great for you. You really like it. You get it done regularly.
Yeah, and because now, because I'm a regular, and actually tomorrow I'm gonna have someone different because my regular is on vacation. He had twins, which go him. But I'm like, I hope it works.
Yeah, that's not a vacation. Yeah.
So, but I've done Botox, I've done the facial retraining, and yeah, it's lifelong. Like there's days when I'm like, time to get in there and stretch, and even just learning some really like I don't know why this one works, but like this really helps. So I don't know why. But she really gave me some creative ways to get in there and stretch unusual things. And then I've also had 2 selective neurolysis surgeries, which they basically cut the stuff that's going to places that it shouldn't be going. They can't do all of it because like for me, I had a really, really tight platysma. Like it always looked like I was screaming on this side of my neck.
Yeah.
And so like they can't turn it off all the way because then they're like, oh, they're not sure, but they brought it
cut your neck off.
Yeah, like you need to be able to turn your head.
Yeah.
But he brought it way down, like way, way down. And that was I mean, these were some painful surgeries, and it still was worth it for me because it reduced my day-to-day discomfort. And that was another interesting thing in interviewing over 100 people was we adapt to pain pretty quickly, and we start calling it discomfort. And discomfort doesn't get you as much help as saying pain, right? So, they show you the pain scale, and they go 1 to 10, and you're like, well, I've gotten kind of used to it. I guess it's a 3. Right. But really, it's a 6 that your mind has converted to a 3 because you have to live with it.
Right. Yeah, you just get used to it, like anything else. Oh, yes, that's interesting. Now, do you get Botox on your platysma here? Because I think I'm going to get some for that. I think on Wednesdays on the plan because this is really tight for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't do too much. I do a little around the eye, and around the mouth, and a little on the neck, and then just a little bit on the other side, just to even things out.
Even things out. Yeah, because it's not like we're not uneven enough already. So let's not make it worse, right? So when does your book come out?
They've got it out with readers right now, and they always want to do some last minute tweaks, but I'm hoping within a year. They've got a full draft. So
that's really exciting, and that's a process I'm definitely interested in learning because I hope to write a book myself.
It's with Rutgers University Press. It's with an academic press, but it's in a series that's a little bit more people say I walk that line a little bit where I give you the academic stuff, but I try to make it accessible. So hopefully I hit that line.
Tell it like a story. Yeah, because you're such a real person. That's always so nice to be able to read an author who gets the scientific stuff, but also says it in a way that, you can kind of resonate with, especially with a topic like this one.
Well,
you want to reach a wide audience.
Yeah. But who wants to be the spokesperson for this, right? It's like,
yeah, exactly. Lucky me.
Yeah. But one thing I asked myself really early on, like when it was still like really bad and just completely paralyzed on one side, is I asked myself, I was like, if this happened to one of my students, how would I want them to feel about themselves? And I was like, I would want them to feel that they were just as valued and just as welcome and just as important to the classroom as they had been before, and that their face, that's not who they are, and that it shouldn't matter. And I was like, okay, well, if I want to feel that way about them, even no matter how bad I feel, I need to model that in my actions and my beliefs. And so like, I think that's all. And I've had a couple of students who've come out and, told me that either they had it or a family member had it. And like, that it actually really mattered to them, that I just kind of tell classes, oh yeah, I have synkinesis. It's from Bell's palsy. It's like, not thrilled with it, but whatever. If I'm not smiling at you, I'm smiling inside, kind of thing.
And that is important. We have a lot of people that come on here where, dating, say, with Bell's palsy, so it's a similar situation where, you sit down and some people are very conscious about that. So the couple of girls that I've talked to, they're like, just sit down and be like, yeah, sometimes my face goes a little bit weird and this is why, so let's just get that out of the way. And then you don't have to worry about it, right? Just to have the confidence to be able to say that. Because especially with synkinesis, I get that because my synkinesis, I'm fortunate. I'm about 80% healed, depending on the day. But it's almost, I'm not going to say worse. Of course, I feel very grateful and blessed that I've had such good recovery, but it's almost like people are like, what? Like, just because it's only there sometimes. So yeah, I just make sure I say, I had Bell's palsy, or make sure I say that, just get it out there. I had once where I was sitting I was with a friend and I was eating sushi, and I eat sushi with a knife and a fork if the pieces are big, because I can't like get it in my mouth, right? And somebody just across, what are you doing eating sushi with your knife and fork, and totally making fun of me. And you sit there and be like, I really don't want to make this person feel bad, because I joke around. I know he's just joking. But yeah, I'm like, oh, actually, we got Bell's palsy, same thing, right? Just get it out of the way, move on, and yeah, I think that that's great. And I think that that sets a great example that you're doing that for people with so many things, whether it's Bell's palsy or anything you have going on in your life, or even just, hey, you know what, I'm having a real crappy day today. So if I don't smile at you today, maybe I will tomorrow. I think that that's, really inspirational for your students as well. Just being real. Just, this is what we got. We just got to deal with it and live life.
Yeah, like people are like, look, it's been a hard couple of years. People are not at their best right now. So like, I'm just trying to cut a lot of people a lot of slack, because we're all like wound really, really tight right now. And there's financial pressures and there's international pressure. So there's all these reasons that we're all very, very stressed out, which definitely doesn't help. But it's like sort of finding those other ways to sort of still keep that positive attitude for our faces, or to reduce that stress level, to kind of help with that. It is that good reminder, like you said, when that face starts going tight, you're like, oh, I must be a little too stressed out. We got to bring this down a little.
Yeah, isn't that interesting though? And that's what I say when I talk to people is, that's not a coincidence. When we get stressed, we get tense. Okay, your shoulders get tense, whatever. Well, that's a message. Your body sends you a message specifically in this one area. Like my shoulder doesn't get, or my elbow doesn't get tense when I get stressed. My face does, because, I'm not using my voice. I'm not standing up for myself. I'm not, all the things, voicing my opinion or things. And that's how it happens for me. And I just really pay attention to it. And that's why I'm so interested to read your book about all the, people talking about the effects, because that's very interesting to me about why this happened to us is so similar for the people that I talk to about being people pleasers and doing everything for everyone else and putting ourselves at last on the list. And I feel like that's a very common thread, and I'm really interested to learn more. Can't wait to read your book and to chat more with you about it. And I definitely want to get you involved in the summit.
Absolutely.
I think that your passion is really aligned with what we're trying to do there in the professional world with the doctors and the people who are at the front line, to make sure that people get care and don't get affected by synkinesis. Because, that's what happened to me, is I didn't have enough meds, is what they figured. I just didn't take enough rounds of it. And I mean, shoulda, coulda, woulda, whatever, I didn't know. I can't blame anybody. Doctors are humans and they do the best they can. But how nice would it be, like you're saying, for us to move forward to help the next person make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and look at a little more holistically too. Like one thing I learned recently is I started looking at things like IgG allergies, and I came out as really allergic to some things. Well, that's supposed to be related to inflammation, and I noticed that cutting out certain foods really like reduced all my joint pain, and I was like, oh wow, I mean, maybe if I cut these out sooner, I wouldn't have ended up with so much synkinesis. I don't know.
Who knows, right? And we won't. But the thing is that's so interesting now is with people such as yourself in the medical field, kind of really poking and doing these research studies, that maybe in 10 years it will be a thing. My girlfriend just going through that, telling me yesterday she has massive pain in her hips and her back, and chiropractors, going to the chiropractor, doing all these things, and it's gluten. She doesn't eat gluten, and that decreases the inflammation in her body, and she doesn't have problems with her hips. Fascinating, right? Our bodies are a machine. You got to put in what it needs. And if, like you're saying, if you had different support nutritionally or something going through healing, maybe the synkinesis wouldn't have happened. Maybe it would, but just interesting. And I'm so excited to have people like yourselves so passionate about it, doing these studies. And then I can be the one to yak about it.
Yeah. And we got to get more people talking, because again, everybody's different, like what the right diet for somebody else might be, but just like sort of hearing the wide range of things. And then I think if someone put it really well that I talked to, is she said, I don't know if she was talking about all the different things she tried. And she said, this one, I don't think it maybe helped my face heal, but it made me feel better, like holistically. And she's like, and that was good enough for what I needed at that moment.
Totally. And that, you know, energetically, if we have a positive view, and we're seeing progress, or we're relaxing. I mean, acupuncture for me, I went to acupuncture pretty quickly right away. So, you know, I mean, I do know acupuncture helped, but what I really feel helped me the most was lying there for 40 minutes, meditating. That I think helped my frame of mind tremendously. And like you're saying, it can't hurt. So for us to get to a point, maybe the research that you're doing and other doctors saying, okay, here's a completely anti-inflammatory diet, that's not going to hurt. Everybody should be having that kind of diet anyways. So if we tell people with Bell's palsy and it might give you a better chance, that's great. You're not hurting, you know, it's worth a shot. So yeah, I'm really excited for that information, that information to come out and to hear more about your, you know, your book and your research. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great chat, and I loved meeting you. So I'd like to for sure keep in touch and
yes, definitely.
have you on again soon. And I'm definitely going to put you in contact with Jody from the Facial Center for Facial Recovery, and as well as my friend Cheryl. And for everybody watching, I got some big news coming up. We're going to have a Bell's Palsy Summit in the next couple months and have some big announcements coming out. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Great.
Everybody have a wonderful night, and I'll be in touch with you. Thanks so much.
Good night.
Bye.